Hello and welcome to the SBK Cheltenham Festival Betting Podcast Special. Tom Collins, Ross Millar, everyone knows that's Sam Twiston-Davies. We are ready to tuck in food, drinks. You don't have your drink, but this is going to be excellent. Are you excited, lads?
What, for the Padron peppers or the free?
Bit of both. Are you a peppers man?
Well, it might be all right. Depends how long you've had to have sat there.
Ross, excited?
Yeah, I am. I think it's the toughest Cheltenham. I was saying, I think I've been studying properly. I mean, I was looking when I was a kid and I shouldn't have been, but studying properly for 10 years, yeah, it's the hardest I can remember. But I think it will mean it will be potentially the most exciting, most to talk about, because there's not going to be a lot of short price favourites that just have to stand up to win.
Yeah, it's going to be a really exciting hour, I suppose, this podcast. We're going to cover 13 races in detail. Then we're going to look at all some undercard races on each day, NAP next best, each way selection at the end as well. So loads coming up in this video. But before I start, I should mention the big SBK Cheltenham Festival offer. I'm going to have to read it off the sheet, otherwise I will get in trouble. SBK is a place to bet this festival this year with winnings boosts on the first race each day and the closing race each day. If you like something in the Supreme or like something in the Martin Pipe or anything in between, provided it's a first race or last race, they will give you a winnings boost. So bet with SBK at the Cheltenham Festival this year. T&Cs do apply to all offers that we will mention, 18 plus, and please gamble responsibly. Right, Sam, before we crack on with the races, we're in the pub, the Hollow Bottom. First time we've been here. Is it the first time?
Yeah, the first time, yeah.
Not the first time you've been here. Have you had some big memories in here?
Plenty. So obviously long time ago, Imperial Commander, Baby Run, obviously Pigeon Island, then went on to win the last race, which was the Grand Annual back then. Some amazing memories. And then even before that, years gone by before, when we were just kids, we'd been running around with the likes of obviously Tricky Tricks winning with Sam Whaley-Cohen, and I'd have been doing my AS levels in school back then. So it's always special memories, and it's been a place that's been obviously very good to us as a yard.
No shark handling incidents with the horses coming into the pub after a win?
They never made it in. Binderik made it here off Summit. I think even Imperial Commander did a parade down here. So nice thing is as well is Baby Run actually still lives at home, and he'll probably hack on by every now and again. But if he's doing it a couple of weeks Friday, then you'll be even more surprised.
I suppose those memories of celebrating after the Cheltenham Festival in here would be right up there with your best Cheltenham memories.
It's amazing how it always works, is because so many owners so close to the yard. So even when Splash of Gin finished second in the plate one year, everyone came back here, and it was a great atmosphere and a great buzz. It's because everyone shares in what is a special memory, a special day for not just us as a yard, but then obviously everyone that's around it, because everyone's supporting each other all the time, and that our straw comes from the farm down the road, and then the hay is obviously made at home, but by the Kings. So there's like so many people that make what we do a reality just in such a close proximity.
Yeah, it's lovely. And I imagine just after a general day, some of the grooms will come down here and people work on the yard, just have a beer and enjoy.
Very much so. So a lot of obviously we sadly can't take all our staff racing. So a lot of the key ones will be there to make sure the horses are presented beautifully. And then if anything was to go well, they'll be cheering them down here at home, and then off onto the evening, I imagine, into Cheltenham.
That is why we're here. Ross, a couple of lovely Cheltenham memories there from Sam. I'm going to ask you about your best Cheltenham memory. It can be a punting one. It could also be just as a kid watching. What would you say was your best?
Oh, there's so many, TC. So many. I mean, I can remember, as a Welshman, I can remember Norton's Coin winning the Gold Cup. 100 to 1, Cyril Griffiths. Actually rode the Cyril Griffiths' colours in a point-to-point. It was no Norton's Coin, I can tell you that much. For me, some of the best memories, I mean, Underso winning the Ryanair. I just loved that because I loved him as a horse. He ran away with Ruby Walsh, and very few ran away with Ruby Walsh. You ran away with Ruby Walsh, and you thought the step up and trip's not gonna work, and he just kept on going. I loved that. I mean, Galloping de Champs, even in the Turner's Chase, when he fell, I mean, it hit me hard in the pocket, but I still got a real, maybe perverse sense of enjoyment out of it, because I felt like I'd seen something really exciting, and already you were looking forward to the next season. So yeah, loads and loads of memories. I mean, a Petit Son, I'm going to say this now, you did ride him, didn't you? Yeah. I mean, I was really quite keen on him, and he won. So it's not always the biggest races, and it's not always the biggest rewards, but there's just, when you feel you figured something out, I think that's the thing about Cheltenham, isn't it? That you can really dig down into it and feel that you've found something that maybe other people didn't.
Yeah, exactly. I'm going to pick up on a couple of things you said there. When you find something other people didn't, that'll be my best Cheltenham memory in that side of Berlin, the 2019 Temps final. Long range punting. Now, obviously, I've had plenty of losers since when I've adopted the same strategy, but those long range ones where you love a horse for a race for such a long period of time and then it suddenly comes up trumps, they're the ones that stick with you. And you said something about hitting hard in the pocket. Well, I had Maljamar against Wichita Lineman. As a rider, did you see that ride with AP? And did you watch that and go, this guy's phenomenal?
Well, it's one of the legendary ones, isn't it? We did something in Great British Racing not that long ago, and they said, what was one of the best rides you've ever seen at the festival? I think there was 14, 15 of us doing it, and every single one is looking at Wichita Lineman, and you're thinking, poor Daryl Jacob. Like, gave the horse a beautiful ride, produced him nicely, gone on to win his race as anyone would. And then you have AP McCoy just absolutely working his magic to get him home. And it's just those kind of races themselves, like they speak for themselves, don't they? It's just a pleasure to watch. And that's why you never have to give up at Cheltenham. Truly, when you do hit that, the rising ground after you get over the last, anything can change.
I imagine, though, if you're on a horse that's not picking up going on the rising ground, you are shouting, going, please get there, where's the line?
So a handful of times when Petit Son was one, this is the one we talked about, you've got to the front and you're thinking like, oh, are we going to just scrape it home? And it's always one of those kind of things when you do hit the front. I've experienced it the wrong way around last year with, I'm losing my head, but in the Triumph, hit the front thinking, here we go, Eastern New Dot course, and then when you got back, it pulls the heart and soul out here. I'm telling you, it's a hard place to walk back down the run-in when that's happened.
Yeah, for sure. It's going to be a pretty difficult Cheltenham Festival week. You've already said that. I actually have written in my notes, because I didn't know what you were going to say earlier. Ross, you're going to be our disclaimer. It's going to be a tough festival, but you've already said it. So I feel like everyone at home needs to know that we're going to mention quite a lot of horses we like over the course of the week. Not everyone is going to be a max confidence play. It's just going to be a token selection in the race. But hopefully we can pinpoint some winners for you guys. We should also say that there's going to be daily Cheltenham Festival podcasts throughout the festival on the SBK YouTube channel. So subscribe down below. Make sure that you are basically getting notifications every time we upload. I think we'll be filming probably like 4:30 like we did last year every day. Maybe Sam would jump in, but he's obviously at Cheltenham, so that's going to be tough. But make sure you check out those podcasts. We will go through every single race every day on those. In this podcast, it's just the featured races every day. So there's your disclaimer. Go and subscribe to SBK right now. Right, time to have a swiggy of drink because we're about to get stuck in. Time to have one of those peppers, Sam. By the end, you're having one. Okay, we're going to start with Tuesday. We're going to start with Supreme Novices Hurdle. Everyone is wanting to find the winner of this race. The crowd and the buzz around Cheltenham is phenomenal ahead of the Supreme. You don't even need to be at Cheltenham actually to have that buzz. You last rode in this race in 2023, I think, so only a couple of years ago. But what is it like when you are lining up and you're waiting for the starter to drop that flag?
It's quite funny because you ride in races obviously regularly to actually be at the start. And it's very quiet when you do get down there. And obviously Cheltenham is a little bit of a law to itself. It's even quiet for a jockey at the start because you're not probably as normal. No one's as chatty as normal. Everyone's a little bit more on edge. And you'll find a lot more of you in a competitive position over the first, whereas normally you'll have maybe 4 or 5 that want to be forward, 5 or 6 want to be midfield, and then you have a handful want to be at the back. Before you know it, you'll find 10 of you, 12 of you lined up across the track. And when you're walking in, you can just hear the crowd from all the way down there. And it's
when you're walking in, you're going to walk in for the Supremes.
Walking in, yeah.
I mean, yeah, the famous Cheltenham roar followed by the famous Cheltenham groan as the flags waved.
My worst one with Ballyandy, I'll never forget it. Because you just wanted, he was near enough favourite. He'd won what was back then the Betfair before. And you're walking and just trying to get a nice position. Before you know it, we jumped the first. I'd been like kind of knocked inwards. And you're just thinking then, you've heard the roar go up and you're a bit like starstruck by that. Then all of a sudden I was swearing for most of the way around after that because it wasn't going quite as envisioned.
Yeah, I can imagine. Before the Supreme, I imagine most trainers would get a nice spot. You just said it there. Make sure you're in the first 5, 6, 7, 8, whatever. Obviously then that leads to a dash to the first hurdle. Does any jockey just kind of go against orders, sitting behind?
A handful. Obviously, you'd have to have the confidence in, I'm lucky for everybody I ride for now. Let's say they were going very fast. You could come back an extra place, 2, 3, if you needed to be comfortable and be relaxed and in a nice rhythm. But at the same time, then you'll have a handful of Supremes where actually you don't go out and go that quick. So last time I rode, and it was rare edition, we hacked. And that was one of the very few who actually didn't go that quick. I was supposed to be a little bit further back that day and nearly ended up making the running. And it's always, go out with a plan A, but Cheltenham is one of those, you could be B, C, D, even E before you know it, because there's so many different variables that can change. And that's what you have to have your eyes wide open as to what can change.
Yeah, and maybe this year, Ross, the plan for Old Park Star will be to go forward and make the pace. We saw that, I think it was a Rossington last time he won, went forward, made all, quickened up nicely. He's the current favourite for the Supreme, around 15-8. Then some Irish horses, Talk the Talk, El Kairos. And it's kind of 8-1, 10-1, bar that. We'll come to those other horses in a second. But Old Park Star, firstly, do you like him in the race? Secondly, do you want him to bounce out in front?
Yeah, yes and yes. I think Nico suits riding that way on the old course. I know he has his detractors. I think he's a really fine rider, and I think particularly on novice hurdlers, when they're able to jump, I think he's great. He'll get him into a rhythm. He'll go forward. He clearly stays really well. He won at Cheltenham, but that was on the new course. My question after that was, A, can you believe what you've seen? Because he beat what looked like a decent field. And will he have the tactical pace for a Supreme? He went to Haydock, Rossman Main, sharp track, and just booted them out the way, didn't he? And it was a decent, not a vintage field, but a decent looking field. Yeah, he won very easily indeed. Nick Henry's won that a couple of times, but he's won it a couple of times with well-fancied horses that have scraped it and not shown an awful lot. Old Park Star showed everything. It's clear that Nico really loves him and has got a lot of faith in him. He's sat on a lot of good horses. And I like the angle of getting out in front, making your own run in, and letting everyone else in behind worry you. And I think that applies to his two biggest dangers, Al Kairos and Talk the Talk. They've both shown jumping errors.
Yeah.
And Al Kairos, he just looks thoroughly disorganised. And I was going to ask Sam about that. He's coming from David Maxwell, who I thought was a great addition to racing. I didn't like the press he got at some time. But there is no doubt, if you were ranking jockeys, David Maxwell would be very close to the bottom, under his own admission. I know in racing yards, very often you'll move riding partners around and say, he's a bit tricky, he needs a more experienced rider. Do you think there's an element that Al Kairos is going to take a season of being ridden, quote unquote, properly in a race to just get hold of himself? Because he just looks like he wants to lurch around and doesn't really focus all the time on what he's doing.
There's aspects to watching him where even previously with David, it always looks like he favours to go towards his left. And I think it's something actually that's quite interesting. He's obviously a very, very pacey horse, but in being a very fast horse, you need to be a very accurate jumper. And that looks to be the one thing that is just actually catching him out a little bit. And you have to remember, on the old course, you have 2 hurdles down the hill before you swing in. You do a lot more jumping in the last quarter than you do on the new track. So that is straight away, it leads to a question. How is he going to travel through the race? Probably beautifully. But over your last 3 obstacles, if you miss 2 out, you're going to land up on the back foot. And before you know it, you've got old Park Star on the front end doing nice fractions, and you know he's going to stay well. He could well be gone off the bend by that stage. You need to be jumping. If you're going to be a very, very good horse, you need to be jumping exceptionally, especially when you are on the old track of Cheltenham.
If you're riding a horse that can get disorganised when he's in full flow, and you're coming to the last, and say you think you have a chance on the run-in, I always feel, as a punter and watching from home, I hate to see a jockey pull back and try to wait for that stride. I always feel like going into the hurdle would be the right kind of ploy, but on board maybe you'd have a different view to that.
You've got to play the percentages. If you're going, one, how well are you going? Do you have to make up ground on someone in front of you? If you are in front and you think happy days and going quite well, you will play probably a percentage card that say, right, I'll keep the revs up, but I will just make sure everything's quite collected and a little bit prettier. Whereas if you're trying to make ground up, you rush it a little bit more and try and go from A to B as quick as physically possible. And sometimes it's going to be a little bit ugly, but I guess with horses like that, is this where, as jockeys, we're also lucky, we spend a lot of time with these horses, you know full well, and obviously Gordon and Jack, they've probably done a lot of work on these horses jumping since, and they'll be going there hoping that they're in a position where they can be nearly upsides at the last and then quicken away from there. But Old Park Star will take some getting past, that is for sure.
He will, yeah. I think El Kairos is the speed horse in the race. Old Park Star is the horse that will probably go out and set those fractions, then be able to just outstay all the rest. So you're with Old Park Star, am I right?
Yeah, and I think Sam's absolutely right. Jack Kennedy will try and pick him off. I just have a suspicion that it'll look like you might pick him off easier than you will. I think he's going to find plenty for pressure.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Arkle. The other one that I think is a good jumper, my daddy Paddy. I think he's a really neat jumper of hurdles. Can probably be given a pass in the form, be it Aintree. The hurdles came out, that probably didn't suit him. And I think Harry Scouten would be the first to admit that he gave him way too much to do. And I think Idaho Star, who won the race, or Idaho Sun, who won the race, is no slouch. But I think my daddy Paddy's going to be ridden the same way. As he can come and pick up, he looks like a pacey horse. So when I was looking away from the favourite, I was trying to find something that's going to want an end-to-end gallop. I thought Idaho Sun was potentially interesting at a decent price. And then I think the other thing we need to factor in is normally Willie Mullins has a short price fantasy for this. He's got loads entered. That's where the daily pods are going to be so useful, because I would be surprised if come the day I don't have a Willie Mullins horse on side in the Supreme. Mighty Park has been the talking horse, but he's had one start. He won 36 lengths. I think he might go Turners. He looked like a big galloping horse, didn't he? The two that I thought were interesting are Leader Dallier and St. Becco. Both won really nicely on their debuts and then ran poorly next time, almost too poorly to be true. They've been completely disregarded. I'd be really interested in them. The one I wanted to ask Sam about was Sober Glory. Looks like he wants soft ground. The other thing I just wonder is, do you think, or have an opinion on whether he'll act around the track? I watched him at Chepstow, and to me he looked like going down the hill on perhaps nicer ground. He galloped a little bit onto his head and he changed legs a few times. I just wonder whether he'd be as effective, holding a position down the hill as he was able to
To me, watching midway through the race, Newbury, the fractions he was putting up on what was bad ground, especially as he went down the back straight, you're thinking so all of a sudden you've got a handful of horses. You talked about Idaho's Son, him being very obviously headstrong, liking to be forward. Are we almost going to end up in a position where they're going quite quick? And at that stage, then you're going down the hill and needing to wing the two down the hill. Does everything get a little bit awkward from there? And does it end up setting in a slightly different demeanour, as you'd imagine? So for me, he's a very, very good horse. But I just think there'll be different scenarios that would suit him better another day.
Yeah, so it's an interesting Supreme. No necessary Willie Mullins horse at the top of the market, as we're used to seeing. But some horses, especially from England, that have good chances. You're with Old Park Star.
Yeah.
I'm with Old Park Star. Hopefully a winning favourite to kickstart the Cheltenham Festival. Old Park Star beat Unsons La Vie earlier this year.
See how that form worked out, mind. So even the Chris Gordon horse, Ollie's horse, hasn't ran. They must be saving him for something. You're thinking all of a sudden there's a level of form where you've got four horses in close contention going over the last few. There's been multiple winners out the race since. Like, you're just thinking, like, this obviously that was his first run of the season, and yet all he's done is progress since. He looks a cracking horse. Whatever he does going forward, you imagine him jumping fences one day. He looks an absolute beauty.
If you could ride one in the Supreme.
I think El Kairos is the fastest horse, but Old Park Star will be the one for the day.
Old Park Star it is. 3 votes to kickstart the Cheltenham Festival. Who do you guys like in the Supreme? This is your time right now to pause the video, scroll down on YouTube, get in the comments section and put your horse in there. We'll be interested to see what the percentage share is between Old Park Star and the remainder of the field. We'll move swiftly on then to race 2, the Arkle. First novice chase of the meeting, 2 miles, fast pace. Favourites won 7 of the last 10 renewals. Any chance of picking up a ride here, Sam? Steel Allies in there. It looks like it's going to be a small field, right?
Yeah, sure. Don't think it'll be over the big, that's for sure. No chance to ride. But when you look at the likes of the horses that are in there, they deserve. It's going to still be the race of the quality it deserves to be. You've got a lot of good horses in there, and the Lumber, just the way he went through the race at Newbury, the game spirit, was just a pleasure to watch. Thought Nico was fantastic on him, as in getting him involved with a little bit more hustle and bustle than you could do. Probably as a short price favourite, he could have just gambled going 3-4 off the rail, riding him down the middle and just staying out of trouble. But actually got him involved, got in the hustle and bustle of it, came off the bridle and then came through really smoothly. And in these types of races, it's going to be a good pace to aim at. And I think that'll only suit Lumber well.
There was a reason why I said any chance of picking up a ride. If you're in the weighing room, do you watch the races on the undercard?
Oh, definitely. You watch out. As you'll all know, to get into Cheltenham's a nightmare. So I think my first ride would be obviously in one of the handicaps, but you'll still find yourself there 3 hours before the first. Trust me, it's not the most exciting. You end up walking the track. You probably do it twice if you needed, but end up just killing a lot of time, and that's what probably end up winding each other up more than anything.
For sure. Lulamba, Ross, main talking point in this race?
For you. Yeah.
Come on, give me some confidence.
No, I like him. I think he's a gorgeous horse.
What about his jumping? Come on.
His jumping's fine. He jumps big early.
Agree.
And my concern is that he was caught for a bit of speed, wasn't he, in the triumph last year. You know, you got quickened past. Maybe you guys got into a protracted battle, and I don't think either of you had chance to
Got beat by a 50-1 shot.
100-1. And that's the point, isn't it? You couldn't reasonably have expected. It's not like Ponderos had dotted up twice in Ireland, being delivered late, and John Joe didn't deliver him late. He bobbed him round to give him a run in a Triumph hurdle, and it slightly fell in his lap. And I don't think, you know, I personally didn't see that you or Nico got an awful lot wrong. I think it was just racing, and I always say with horses, luck is such a hugely undervalued part of anything to do with horses. Pulling them out in the morning, are they 4 legs or 3? My concern with Lambert is the old course is completely different to the new course. He'll finish really strongly, and I say this completely aware of the fact that Django Bay, he was virtually tailed off at the top. Like, if Nico pulled him up at the top of the hill, you wouldn't have said, "Oh, Nico, why don't you give it a try?" So that it does show that it can change complexion late on. I just worry he's going to have the pace. Slower ground will help him, and there's lots of rain forecast. I just love Kopek the boards.
Do you think he'll definitely run in this race? People are talking about supplementing him for the champion hurdle.
Well, I've got David McCarthy, co-owner, coming on the podcast next Tuesday, so I will ask him directly.
Nice. But another reason to subscribe.
I think they are really interested in running in the Arkle.
Okay.
And if you watched his debut at Navan, you've never seen a novice chaser on debut jump like it. I mean, Paul Tannen had to sort of break jaw a little bit down to the first 2 just to get control of him, and he jumped a little bit up in his net. But after that, he went in. When he wanted to shorten up, he was neat in front of the fences. He was long. Saw someone say he jumped out to his right slowly. He didn't. I've watched it back before I commented. He jumped gun barrel straight, but Paul was taking him to the right to get onto better ground a little bit sometimes. He's won on the course. He's going to arrive there fresh. And I get he's going to arrive there without experience, but he's going to arrive there a very fresh horse. And I think in a pace race like that, I quite like that angle. Lulamber's a gorgeous horse. I wouldn't put anyone off him, but I think he's going to be a nice horse over staying trips going down the line. Romeo Cudio was the one I asked you about. I mean, he fell over the line at DRF, as did Carghese, who looked like she was about to break to a trot before kind of catching a second or third wind and finishing fast. I just looked at that and straight away said, I want no part of those two to go to Cheltenham. And I know, and it's one of my bugbears, and we're talking about these trainer tours at the moment. I'm yet to see one. I don't watch them anymore where the trainer says, "Oh, he's not really pleasing me in his work." They're all working well. They're all coming to hand just at the right time. I guarantee Gordon Elliott will say he came out of that race absolutely fine. He was bouncing 2 days later. Yeah. There is a massive difference between them bouncing at home on a gallop and winning a grade 1 up the hill at Cheltenham. I just couldn't be touching him, particularly when I think he's going to be in top gear the entire race, and that's a pretty inefficient way to race.
I think this ties in perfectly with the question I was going to ask you about Kopek de Board, because obviously that was a hard race you're talking about of Romeo Cudio and Carghese. Kopek de Board's not run for 113 days. I was actually going to say, from a Twiston-Davies point of view, Nigel, Willie, yourself, what would you consider to be the proper time off the track if you're going into a seasonal target?
Well, I think it's always what we know full well with obviously the team obviously over there is that they're able to get an away day. They can go obviously off to multiple different gallops. They can do everything. But I think for them, it's what they've seen as the best preparation for him. You know, he'd done a lot of jumping. You know, he'd done a lot of work. He'd be very fit and very well. And actually, I always think with a 2-mile chase, you're almost better off being a little bit fresh because you're going to run and jump with obviously a lot more enthusiasm. Whereas you're going to be sat behind the bridle, you make a mistake, your race is gone. It's 2 miles around Cheltenham. It's so quick, and you're making little niggling mistakes. Just sat behind the bridle, it's going to be a hell of a long way home. Then you always then look at Django Bay last year, what he did. You can do it. You've just got to be close enough at the pivotal points.
Interesting. Okay, so
that ties me in actually. My cousin messaged me this morning. So he had a debate with a friend at work yesterday who'd said, both massive racing nuts, and the friend had said, training horses is actually pretty easy. You get them fit, and the hard part of training is attracting the owners in. My cousin said that's nonsense. It's really difficult. My cousin has horses. They're always getting into bother, and it's really difficult. I was told when it was eventing, slightly different sport, that the hardest thing to do with horses is to do nothing. Come to a fence, sit still, do nothing. I think one of the best training performances at the DRF was really managing Kopek de Board, that he didn't run him. Yeah. So I think if you'd run him off a big break in that ground, no matter how talented you had a hard race. So I think there's nuances to the training that people miss, and I think this is going to prove to be a really smart move.
Kopek de Boer for you then.
Yeah.
Lilamba for me, I just love that winning the game spirit. I think his mark of 163 shows that he's every bit as good as what we've seen with previous Arkle winners. And for me, he's way the horse to beat. I'd actually play him probably at even money, to be honest, which is contradictory, but I would. It's probably a 2-horse race between those two. Who do you prefer?
For me, I do. Being obviously the Lambert, I'd like to win, but I really do think Kopek de Boer is going to give him a hell of a lot. Yeah,
Sammy,
you have to remember how they do things. They do things very differently. The pace he will show is, and if he gets into a good rhythm towards the front end, it's going to take some getting back.
2 votes for Kopek de Boer, 1 for Lulamba in the Arkle. And Kopek de Boer kind of moves us into the champion hurdle because he could be supplemented for that. We'll see. A long time still. Kind of not in terms of actual days, but in terms of preparation and training decisions, there's a long time before the Cheltenham Festival. We'll see who's supplemented. Now that Constitution Hill is not running. What's this? Constitution Hill?
not running.
Not running. No, on the flat of Constitution Hill. When he was taken out the race, okay, let's start with the obvious question. Do you think he should be running in the champion hurdle?
Oh, they're the masters of what they know. If they don't want to run, there's a very valid reason. They are the masters. Nicky Henderson and Nico de Bonville. Like Nico to watch over an obstacle is a pleasure. So if he's not happy, and they've obviously had the conversation, it's for them to have.
Same opinion?
Completely agree. And I would apply that to any owner and trainer that say they don't want to run a horse. Is great. You know, again, harking back to the good days when I was eventing, my boss used to say to me, any day you get to put your horse back in the box at the end of the day competing is a good day, no matter how the result has gone. And I think that's never truer. And as I said earlier in the week, Nicky Henderson also is not only making a decision for himself, Michael Buckley, Conhill, he's also making a decision for racing, because
agreed,
we can make no mistake, we've never been under more threat about what we ask these horses to do.
What he showed at Southwell, the crowd he dragged in, like that shows. So that if he can pull that into Southwell, imagine how many, yes, it'd have been lovely to see him there and the crowd he would have pulled in, but what is he going to do now in the races he goes to in the future? It's going to be a pleasure to watch anyway.
Exactly. And there were people on social media saying that this is terrible for jumps racing. But if you remember back to El Fabiolo, he fell 3 times in 4 starts over fences, and then they brought him back to hurdles and he won next up. Okay, with Constitution Hill, it's going from jumps to flat, but that's because he wasn't a chaser. When the horse can't jump a hurdle efficiently per se and is paying the price for that, why would you just keep running them over hurdles? I feel like we could go on and on about Constitution Hill, but it's probably a bit of a drag now with the news that's come out and everyone's opinion. But if he was to line up in the race, would either of you have liked him in here? By the way, the news was announced 24 hours before we're filming this podcast, so he's not running.
Yeah, I've been a big Constitution fan, and I thought they would get his jumping sorted. And I really struggle with, did I want to put him up? Because I would love him to win it.
Yeah, he was 6-1 as well.
I couldn't bear the idea he'd end up on the floor. But then I looked at it and just thought, Nico could almost break him to a trot, pop every hurdle, and still win this 10 lengths against these. And you say we could talk about Constitution Hill for hours. I'd almost say, can we, and just skip the champion hurdle?
He hits a top speed of 39.3 miles an hour. Like that's, you could, I get exactly what I mean. You could literally just go, no, and then just land at the back of the last. And like, but yeah.
As for what wins it now, 2C, I don't know. The new Lion, I mean, he could well win it now.
Well, he's the favourite, 5-2.
How many could get supplemented? So Tutti Conti, obviously.
Yes, he's definitely.
So who else? But could there be more? Somebody else goes, why not? Like,
well, we don't even have
wide open.
We don't even have confirmations of Lossiemouth or Brighter Days Ahead at the moment. They could both go to the mares. Lossiemouth, I want to come to in a second, because if she doesn't go to the champion hurdle, that is a shocker from Connections, in my opinion. But like Old Park Star, he's likely to go to Supreme, very likely, but he could go to the champion hurdle. Cabral to Matan, does he go to the champion hurdle, get supplemented? Kopek de Boer, obviously. There are many horses that could step into the fray here. It's a champion hurdle where 3 weeks out from the festival, usually we know exactly who's running and you just make a decision. This year you've got the New Line and Golden Ace definitely going, Lossiemouth, Brighter Days Ahead probably going, not sure, and then the rest, who knows?
Yeah, but even the ones you're saying about supplementing, you know, you could add Ballyburn, in that he might even have an entry, you know, and drop back in trip. Cabral de Matan is a horse I love, I'm not sure I'll say the Stayers trip, but I'd be pretty certain he's not quick enough for even this kind of champ on the hurdle. The new Lion, the issue I have with him is he looked quick last year, quickened up really well to win the Turners against the yellow clay, who has looked like an absolute boat this year. And Final Demand, who looked brilliant on Chase debut, is clearly a 3-miler and maybe a bit of a moody so if he doesn't get his own way. So maybe he wasn't turning it all in and making the new Lion look quicker. He fell in the fight in 5th. Now, Dan and Harry say that he was going to win. I think he fell in the fight in 5th because Harry was starting to panic a bit that he had to stay in the race and was looking for one to keep him on a pitching sort of level with the others. He sure might have finished off strongly because we know he stays further. Then he went to Cheltenham. I'd be really, Sam has ridden far more effectively. I think I was 0 from 32 to points. Sam was way more educated to talk about this sort of thing. But I didn't like the approach. I understood it. I didn't like the approach of breaking him down to every hurdle because he's going to have to go in and fiddle hurdles. I understood what they're saying, but I don't think that's how you win a champion hurdle. I think to win a champion hurdle, you have to be pretty quick. And I worry that they're going to have taken him one way and he's going to come back the other. And then you look at that run at Cheltenham and he beat the Mean Lion and he quickened past the Mean Lion, but only just. And the Mean Lion's not a 2-miler and was giving him weight. Was giving him £3.
Yeah.
Beat him a length and a half. He could definitely win it. I will not be putting any money on him at a short price. I probably won't have a bet in the race. I backed Pony Ross at 100 to 1 when the entries came out.
Did you?
Yeah. Put him out, and I did tip him on the Tuesday podcast as well. He's got an RPR of 160.
Is that a bit of after time then? Are we?
Yeah, no, I did. They can clip it up and put it there. He's got an RPR of 160. What's the Mean Lion's RPR?
Probably no more than that.
163.
Yeah.
The difference in price, okay, he's come in price now.
I think his goal was 9 to 1. I saw it.
I mean, Golden Ace is probably the obvious one, isn't she? She's going to turn up. She'll give her a run.
And that'd be a nice
Right,
result
right.
as well.
Yeah.
Great result
It would be a great result.
down there.
Are you ridden for Jeremy Scott?
Maybe once or twice, but lovely, lovely man. And then Lorcan the same, obviously lovely jockey, great lad. And like you'd like to see, it's obviously fantastic. They've got obviously Willie, Skeltons, all that, like huge teams. And then obviously with Paul supplementing one. But how nice is it? Like the stories, the way they've done it and told it, and for them to come in and have an outstanding chance, I'd be cheering her on, all true.
Yeah. Brighter days ahead, TC. I'm in the camp. This is just not her track. She's a really good mare around Leopardstown.
I agree.
She's coming in twice. Okay, maybe Jack was Jack and Paul, weren't they? Sort of faced each other off in the mare's novice, and Lorcan schooled them on Golden Ace. She's proven to be a good mare. And then last time out at Cheltenham, she stopped to a standstill before the last. They said she came back sore, but she landed broadside after the last. She could have got sore there. There's nothing to say that she was sore at the top of the hill and that's why she stopped. Again, she's not going to have to run any great numbers to win this, but I just instinctively go against her.
So you're Poneros, are you?
Not at current price.
If you were
I'm happy with. I honestly think it might just be a race I'll watch.
Okay.
And say yeah.
But that's a good advertisement for not
Just
backing us.
champion hurdle. I'd love to have an opinion, and if something gets supplemented in, if I have an opinion, I won't be shy in voicing it, as you know. But I just think it's one of those races you could watch and look for the story. I mean, Old Park Star supplement. I mean, I hadn't even considered that. That's got me kind of interested. I don't think it.
I hope it doesn't happen.
But it'd be interesting. Golden Ace winning it. If Brighter Days Ahead goes and wins it, she's got her Cheltenham win. And if Lossiemouth can do over 2 miles, great. But I think she'll run in the mares. I really do.
Yeah. I like. Well, okay. I don't like anything in the race. I have a similar kind of strategy to you here. But Lossiemouth would be my play if she's declared. I just think she's better than them. I really do. She loves Cheltenham.
But she wasn't better than Brighter Days Ahead at Leopardstown.
No, but she will be at Cheltenham. Bright Days Ahead, not.
She is a better mare at Cheltenham. I do do that.
She's a smooth traveller. Will like the better ground. So she's going to be my pick. But again, I probably won't have a bet in this race. I was going to ask you who you bet then, but I can't do that. Who would you ride?
For me, Golden Ace, more for the story, everything it adds to the race, should be one I'd like to go and see win.
Are you someone who would sit at home, or if we're in the weigh room in this instance, and be kind of voting with heart over head?
I'm definitely not romantic, so I'd have to try and sell it somehow. But yeah, the times, it's always the way. You'll go over something like that where you can see a little bit of an angle, and the story of it all afterwards would sit quite nicely in the
Okay, so that is the Champion Hurdle. Extremely difficult race to preview at this stage. Don't know who's going to run, don't know what the prices are, but no bets, but has played Pony Ross if you watch Miller's Movers. Lossy Mouth for myself, and Golden Ace, a vote from Sam. Horses to look out for then on the undercard on Tuesday. We've got the Fred Winter, the National Hunt Chase, the Ultima, and the Plate. Who should I start? I'm going to start with you, Sam. Do you know any rides at this moment in those races?
So we have 2 in the Ultima. We have Uncle Bert and Guard Your Dreams.
You like it?
So a little bit, sadly, Toby McCain-Mitchell probably would have ridden Guard Your Dreams. He won on him well last time. But actually got a suspension, so it rules him out of the Tuesday. So very much between the two. Obviously see how they're training, what the ground is leading up. And then we have Guard the Moon then will be in, obviously now the 3-mile-6 novice handicap. Stayed really well at Windsor, hit the line strong, looked well beat at the bottom of the straight. Think the trip was suiting well, and it just looks like that extra trip. And interesting sort of race. Don't get me wrong, very competitive. He could run all right. And then I think that's us for the day, yeah. And then obviously with the Fred Winter wide open, can make cases for a hell of a lot of horses in there. I think the biggest thing about the Fred Winter is how is it going to fall? Who's going to end up wandering over to the Triumph and not? You're looking at some very good horses down the bottom, but you're going to need 20 odd to come out. Because, you know, like the horse of Max Conley's the filly that's won her last 3, looked very smart and winning at Doncaster, but it's going to need horses to come out. So at this point, obviously very hard to look at a lot of those races and have a very strong opinion.
Yeah, and from between now, February 25th, I think it is, and the Cheltenham Festival, will there be some movement of you potentially grabbing rides, or do you already know kind of who you're going to ride every day?
You know, pretty much. Obviously, at this stage, it's very competitive, as is all of race at the minute. When you see multiple, when you have someone like Cheltenham and you have X amount of yards going, you know, stable jockey's going to be on A, and then potentially the work for the yard are going to be on B and C, and it's very lucky positions. It's the graded races where you might get a handful, but obviously then it's obviously when you got the strength from depth Willie has, it's a lot of the lads from over the sea are going to end up on them, and then obviously like Harry Cobden's got a great rapport with him and such. So for us, it's pretty much a case of turn up, smile, and do as best you can.
Love that. Ross, undercard, 4 races, anything?
Haven't had a massive look yet. And I would encourage people not to get swept up in this. Handicap weights are out, and people have found one.
You can encourage them all you want. They will not listen.
There is not enough time from when the weights came out to now, which is the 26th, Thursday, to go through all the handicaps, watch horses and their races, rather than just read the race and post comments, which are not, again, computer generated. There's someone's eye that could differ to yours. So I've not had a great look. Slade Steele has been one that I've just been watching all season. He'll go in the Plate. He's 151 over hurdles. I think he's got 145. He's got only £1 Irish tax, which I think is notable. It's got course form. It's not great course form in that Supreme, but it's a decent level. And I think he's been campaigned towards something. Henry de Bromhead always goes quiet, late Jan into February. Every year I flag it up, and every year he bounces back at Cheltenham and has them delivered to a T. So I thought he was interesting. And Rebecca Curtis has got one in the National Hunt Chase, which I think if he goes, it's going to be a bit of a stretch. He's going to have to improve a bit more, but he won at Doncaster last time. I forgot his name temporarily, but he won very nicely indeed.
Okay, interesting then. Again, another side note that if you do want all of our selections for the each day on every race, just watch the daily podcast. We'll cover some random horses that we do like in those undercard races, but not in as much detail as we will on the day itself. I'll reel off a couple of horses I like on the undercard. Fred Winter, Secret Force, and Genealogy. They're both 25 to 1 each. Secret Force ran a nice prep at Musselburgh. Genealogy didn't run a nice prep in Ireland, but Dennis Hogarth's horses can do that. And so hopefully they go close each way for both of those. And National Hunt Chase, I like Brave Fortune at 16 to 1 for Joseph O'Brien. Joined Joseph after winning a 3-mile 1 furlong hurdle. Both runs for Joseph over 2.5, steps up in distance. That's the angle. Okay, on to Wednesday then, day 2. We're going to begin with the Turners novice hurdle. 8 of the last 10 winners of this race have been 3 to 1 or shorter. So it's not a race where you really want to be going down the market per se. What kind of horse in terms of characteristics and assets do you generally want in the Turners?
The new one is one of my first, obviously, very fond memories of the race. A lot of them, as you've seen with the new line, end up stepping back down and trip. That's exactly what the new one did. So being obviously you're on the old track still, you want slightly pacey individual, be able to hold your slot, jump well. And it's just very much a case you want to be able to travel and jump at pace. And I think that's why you see so many of them stepping back down in trip, is because, yes, they do obviously stay well, but that's probably what you do end up needing in a champion hurdle, is you need to be able to, yes, jump and gallop, at the same time as you need to hit the line strong. And that's exactly what this kind of race makes up for.
Yeah, No Drama This End is currently right at the top of the market here. He worked with Tutti Quanti, the champion hurdle at Prospect the other day.
Worked nicely. It's like a pair of them together, didn't they? It shows.
Yeah, exactly. So you need speed, but also a little bit of stamina.
Do you think those gallop mornings are actually revealing though? They're revealing when Conscious Hill, blows like a tank like he did that one year. But are you really doing a bit of work?
I think they're very interesting. I didn't take part in any this year, but was part of Henderson's team the year before. And I thought they were amazing how it all works. It was there to get them out, blow the cobwebs away, and the horses enjoy it. At the end of the day, getting them out the stables, doing something a little bit different, just adds that little bit of spice to it all. Yes, nobody's going to go and uncover any great miracles, bar obviously what happened to Constitution Hill the one year. But I think it's just nice. You get to see their well-being, and that's for me more than anything.
Yeah, I get to completely agree with that. Getting all, and again, go back to Conscious Hill, because why not? Horses, it's horse racing. Make them front and centre, not the upstar, not anything else. And you saw the crowd at Kempton for the Gallop this morning. Someone I can't remember, there was more people there than there would be for a Kempton or Weather card. So it's great for that. All these sound bites, but look like he moved well, and again, great. They're all going to move well unless they don't.
It's the next Denman though.
And did you see him? So you went down for your Bolognese date night with Mr. Nichols. What was the Bolognese like? I know he didn't cook it. Was it good? Yeah.
Garlic bread was a finest, but yeah, it was nice.
It's good.
Yeah.
And do you ride out on the Saturday morning for Wincanton? Did you see No Drama at this end?
Yeah, he lived in the front yard, looked a picture. It's amazing to see. So obviously years have passed, obviously a lot of, they'll call it, I can't remember what they call it. It's basically the block of 10 in the front. And it's obviously where over the years, a lot of the good horses were Big Bucks, Denman, Quarto Star. And obviously you'll see them all progress through. So when you see him in there and you see his head over the door, fine horse to look at.
Question on the quote that Nichols says, the next Denman. Now, as an outsider looking in, per se, you'd think that's a bit optimistic. Would Nichols be an optimistic trainer, or would he be realistic?
Doesn't say it often. I know he does say it. He doesn't. Very rarely does he get it wrong. It's one thing you'll always know. And all the times I was down there, and if he ever said that I had a strong opinion on a horse, very, very rare was he wrong.
Got to take notes of that.
Or when Petit Somme came over from France and he said, we're going to run that straight in the Coral. It's like, right, scored beautifully, and funny enough, he won.
Yeah.
Wasn't wrong.
Yeah, that's very true. He's big words, but
Yeah, I just wonder this year, I think it's obvious that he's been pretty bruised by what he feels is unfair media coverage, perhaps the last 12 months. And I just wonder whether he's trying to promote it a bit more. And there's only ever going to be one Denman. I can tell him that for certain. Do you think he's going to be quick enough for this test?
I think he will be quick enough. I don't know if he's going to be good enough. And I know that's mad to say because he's already achieved a lot. He's dual grade 2 winner, grade 1 winner, but there's a good horse in there for Jacob Madison, Willie Mullins, who looked like a monster on debut. That's Mighty Park. I don't know if No Drama This End can match him.
No, I mean, what did he win? 36 lengths.
Yeah, but literally from the start of the race, he was just away and got.
And 56 lengths, wasn't it? And the third horse is rated 104. Now, it would be folly to say that he's run to 160, but at the same time, he did clearly run a massive figure.
He's actually run to within one, on that one start he had for Mullins, Mighty Park, he ran to within 1 pound of No Drama This End's best. And No Drama This End's got way more experience. So,
but is experience going to count?
That's the question.
Go to Cheltenham off one hurdle run, 1 point to point she didn't win, fresh off a break. It's a big ask. I would prefer him to No Drama This End. I've been slightly not underwhelmed by him, but I've not seen the I remember seeing Denman. I was at Bangor when Christian Williams won me, I think, and he just walked in, and you just thought, yeah, he's something. I've not seen this horse in the flesh, and Sam has, so he's really impressive. But just in the race course, he's not grabbed me yet.
But I don't think he wins by far. I think when he does get to the front, he's never been asked for an absolute humongous effort. It's always very smooth. It's a pleasure to watch. It's very easy. But he's not one that's going to go and win by 20 lengths. He's going to win as he has. Cobden's always fantastic on him. He's won near enough on the bridle how many times. And then at Newbury, just nudged him to the line. I don't think he's been given the opportunity to go and win by 20 lengths. They've done it all quite nicely. I don't think we've seen the best of him yet.
Would you see it? Would you be with him in this race?
I would be.
Yeah.
I love the way he races, doesn't waste energy. Nice, clean jumper.
This year trying to get the ride on him.
Be lovely, wouldn't it? Yeah, I have to say the right things. No, but just as an individual.
Mighty Park be a nice one to on. See if JP get you on that.
As an individual, he's a pleasure to watch. There we go. That's how to sum it up.
Fair enough. Ross, sorry, it's the drinking, but who would you bet?
Again, I've not got a firm opinion. I mean, I think Active Innocence. I think he's got a bit of pace, and if you were going to say to me, out of Active Innocence and No Drama This End, and Sam has said that they drop back into it, No Drama This End is never going to run over he might run over a 2 mile novice chase, I suppose. He's never run over 2 miles over hurdles. Active Innocence could drop back into it.
Well, he was originally supposed to be the Supreme, wasn't he?
So, and I'm pretty certain that Nico is fairly confident that Old Park Star is a better horse, but the vibes have been, there wasn't much between them when they first started. I do like him at a decent price. Of Willie Mullen's horse, and again, we've got to see where they're all going to run. I thought Dr. Steinberg was interesting because I'm not convinced they'll go 3 miles because he was mad keen through the Nathaniel Lace, I think it's called, isn't it? 2 mile 6. If he goes 3 miles, I think they'll have to put a hood on him. Mullins does quite like hoods at the festival. Coppet de Board had first time hood to win Supreme. But I think he could come back in trip. Paul wouldn't have to try and fight him, could let him go on and use his gallop. I thought he was interesting. And then another one that you're going to smile at now is a big price. And you don't even know if he'll go to Cheltenham. Hip Hop de Loire, who we have got history with off the flat. The one thing he's got going for him is that Colin Keane won't be riding him, so he's not going to be given too much to do, as he has, unfortunately, every time.
He will be there that day for the show.
Yeah, he is
a bummer there.
Yeah. He's got a massive engine. He was second at Galway in a 2 mile maiden hurdle. A year later came back and took apart a 3 mile maiden hurdle. He's clearly got a big engine in there. Beat Zanderbad, who's 136 rated. If he turned up and he's a big price, I think he'd be worth a look because he's got proven stamina and he's got a bit of flat speed as well.
So if I was to simplify your synopsis there to who would you at this stage be most interested in out of those 3?
Dr. Steinberg. But you'll have to factor in that he's got options.
Yeah,
there's so many of them all day.
Yeah, interesting. Dr. Steinberg, he is currently the favourite for a race later in the week, so we'll talk about him in a bit. I like Mighty Park. So there's a vote for Mighty Park, No Drama This End, and Dr. Steinberg with an asterisk, so watch the Daily Pots. Okay, from novice hurdlers to novice chasers in the Brown Advisory. You won this on the Real Wacker. Some buzz?
Nice day. Amazing how it can all work out as a jump travelled on the front end. Yeah, and obviously, very special day. Last Cheltenham Festival when I had that was...
Was there ever a moment's doubt in that race?
When the photo got called, you always have that little bit. I was fairly hopeful I'd won, but you know that you're always then drawn to a finisher, and that was the problem.
Yeah.
I don't want to make him blush, and I want him to share his peppers, but it was a good ride as well, wasn't it, that day?
You can have the peppers.
Yes, I noticed I'm going solo on the peppers. It was a good ride that day, wasn't it? Like,
it was very right.
A tough horse.
Yeah, brilliant ride off the front. Willie Mullins has won 3 of the last 5 editions of the race. He has 12 horses entered this year. It's just complete dominance.
Strength and depth.
Yeah, it's incredible, isn't it? Final Demand, though, is the favourite. What do you make of his jump?
I didn't comment on your X post where you said about his jumping.
Yeah.
Because I thought we could wait now. His jumping on debut was excellent.
What happened last time?
But twice since, he took a backward step at Christmas, absolutely. And then last time he was woeful, wasn't he? He looked to me like he jumped like a horse that was feeling a bit of discomfort in his back. I'd absolutely say that. But I take on board the fact that he just looked like when Paul asked him to go and get stuck in, didn't really want to, did he? And the walk in the parks are like that by all
big
accounts.
fence. Cheltenham isn't quite the jumping test. A lot of the Irish tracks. Beautiful apron, not that big. I could just see him taking to Cheltenham a hell of a lot easier than obviously some of the real big Irish tracks.
Let's say a Twiston-Davies horse goes out on the track tomorrow, jumps absolutely abysmally. Do you have confidence in the next time to jump better? Obviously, you'll work the horse.
You'll make sure you've found a reason as to why. Was he get the physios out, check legs, do what you can vet-wise, see if that's something needs injecting, and then you will then go and school again. So if we're doing that, everyone else is doing the same. So they will have gone and done and found and improved. So
But what would you say the percentage is for a horse that would jump terribly to then jump terribly again next time? Over fences this is, compared to a horse that jumps terribly and then suddenly...
yeah, I think they'll have found a reason, and obviously if they're going in, they'll be doing it with maximum confidence.
I think the confidence of the horse has to be factored in as well. He wouldn't have enjoyed himself at Leopardstown, and that's a big factor with particularly novices. And he's not going to get it. He's not going to be able to build into the race. It's going to be a proper race. The one thing I think Sam's absolutely right. Every trainer will go and look for a fix. Some trainers will say we found ulcers, we found back. Willie Mullins will say we think we found a reason. He won't tell you what it is. He never ever does. He never says it was this or it was that. He just said we found a reason. We think we've rectified it. That will be the line for all of the good publicity he does around Cheltenham. My issue with Final Demand is that run. I think probably next in the market is Kay Doughty, who beat him. My issue with him is if you walked into Clous Sutton at the start of the year and said, who do you think is going to be the better novice chaser, Kay Doughty or Final Demand? They wouldn't answer you, they'd just laugh at you. Yeah. So if you can't fancy Final Demand, I think it's hard to be fully behind a short price-ish horse in Kay Doughty. I thought Wendigo was interesting.
Before we come back to here, one last thing about Final Demand. The reason why I tweeted about him after the race last time, it wasn't that he was like plowing through his fences or wasn't on the right stride. It was mid-air. He was so awkward and skew-if and just really unaesthetic.
That's what I mean. I think he was perhaps feeling something. And like if you have a twinge in your back, you'll sit a little bit awkward or lopsided like me, I think Sam's right. I think there's every chance they'll find a problem. I just wonder whether...
If he's more fluent, he would be a short price favourite.
But if Final Demand had replicated his debut run on his next two runs and was an odds-on favourite, and we were trying to take him on, one of the holes we'd poke in him is on this course last year, he got beaten and he just looked a little bit tap for toe. Now, he's going up in distance now, so that should be easier. But he's still going to have a little bit of tactical speed to hold his position. So that's the other concern. But it doesn't look the deepest of races, is it?
It doesn't. You talked about distance. Obviously, 3 mile, 1 furlongs. You do need a strong stayer, a good jumper. Wendigo is perfect.
I thought behind Kitzbühel at Kempton, and Kitzbühel blitzed him, didn't he, really? He was just... people say his jumping was amazing. I didn't think it was. I thought he was always a hair's breadth and getting it really drastically wrong, as he unfortunately did at Sandown. Wendigo didn't like the track, got a long way back under Gavin, as they sometimes can. If he doesn't feel it's happening, he's not one that will force them to latch onto the leaders. He'll let them fill up and come home late, and he did. Ran well in the Albert Bartlett last year when he got hampered. I can see the angle of him. The issue with pretty much everything in here is it's around about his price, isn't it?
Yeah.
Where, there's people that got a nice price on Wendigo after his, debut.
He's a bit of a hype horse on social media.
Yeah, and that's the problem. The price is all closed down. The other one that's a bit of a hype horse, perhaps not quite to the same degree as Western Fold. Third to Envoy LN.
Yeah.
In an open company. Likes nice ground. I thought he ran well to a point last time on the soft at the DRF. He'll stay really well. But again, he's not an obvious winner, but his price is not something that tempts you in and say, I feel like I'm getting a bit of value. So I think it'll be, again, another one for the dailies to see what you can find.
Fair enough. I like 2 in here. The Big Westerner finished second in the Albert Bartlett last year against the boys. Faces the boys again here. Beat Jade DeGrugy last time, pretty good form. Henry de Bromhead does so well at the festival despite kind of struggling in the weeks before, as we saw last year. So I think she'll go close. And Oscar's brother, I thought, was interesting, around 14-1. Smooth traveller, but does need soft ground. So again, this is one for the daily podcast. If the weather forecast, long-range forecast is correct, and we get some nice weather between now and the festival, Oscar's brother will probably be off the table for me. But if it's soft ground, I would like him. Any opinion?
Wendigo for me. I think he'll much prefer the track. Obviously, I love what they did, take him up to air, just get his head in front, nice jumping round. But even then, obviously, air is quite a sharp in the track, and I don't think that'll done him any harm at all. See him going well.
You two are sharing notes, huh?
Yeah. Nosing over.
Okay, perfect.
You would be able to read my writing.
That is the Brown advisory done. Let's move on to the Queen Mother Champion Chase then. There's been a lot of talk about this, largely from Barry Connell and no one else, but about Marine Nationale. I prefer Marshborough. I'm just going to put it straight out.
Oh, see, I'm the other way around.
Okay, so tell me why. Because
I think he got a fantastic ride from Mark Walsh last day. Everything went smooth, everything went well. Whereas I just think, obviously, weather permitting, what's going to be will be. But for me, I just think Cheltenham suits Marine Nationale really well. I touched on the fences earlier. Island build a beautiful big fence. Cheltenham is a lot easier to jump around. I just think that suits Marine Nationale that little bit better.
Okay, I hear that. What about you?
I've never been on board with Marine Nationale, and my issue with last year's win was the presence of Calixios at the last. Yeah. Calixios is no superstar, and John Bon got far close. I mean, John Bon is a super horse. He still got quite close given how it had gone throughout the race. So I'm not mad keen on Marine Nationale. I'm not mad keen on Marshborough on this track, assuming it's spring ground, and that's a massive assumption at the moment because it just keeps raining. Slow ground's going to really help him. I'm doing a few bits of social media at the moment. I watched the Queen Mother back last night. He comes off that bend, and the second last comes up very quick off the turn. He's a big horse. He rolls down the hill. He rolls onto his right shoulder, and he came to the last having to adjust, and his body weight's just all out to one side, and he simply couldn't. He just didn't trust himself to use his feet, so he just ploughed through it. The cheek pieces clearly sharpened him up, as did Mark Walsh getting his own way and riding how he wanted to ride him and go forward. So there's every chance that a more aggressive ride helps him. But he wasn't negative on him in the Arkle. He was inexperienced. He was inexperienced, and he punched him off the turn, and he said go down to the last, and the second last and the last didn't happen. I understand it. I see it. I like the idea of Marine Nationale. I'm a salty bugger, but I don't really want to win it because I took more offence than is reasonable, and I completely understand that I'm being a baby about Mickey Mouse race. I understood, and someone said, "Oh, but he's an owner as well." Yeah, he's an owner, but he's a trainer. Talk about your own horse as much as you like, but when you start talking about other people's horses, particularly what is now a 12-time Grade 1 winner, who's never missed a season, Marine Nationale has had less runs than John Bon has had wins. I just didn't like that, so I did against him because I'm a bit like that. I'm coming round to the idea of Load of Sud.
Are you?
I just
Al Scale of fanboy now, and that's like
it's turned out that way this year, hasn't it?
I don't know if you know this about Russ. He loves Dan Scout.
Yeah. I mean, Harry's agent won't message me and say, "Can you leave him alone, please?" So how the tides have turned. The Arkle's worked out better than it looked, hasn't it? Django Bay is clearly a very good horse. Mm-hmm. Only by Night, I think, is a really nice mare. He won the Schlur and won it really impressively, and I thought that was his gold card.
I'm going to pause you here, because if the Arkle's worked out well, and Marshborough made a pig's ear of the last two fences and a couple of others, and there was only a little difference between the two, him and Load of Sud, why is Load of Sud going to beat him this time, unless you're for a different prep? Okay. Is he a better horse than he was?
Well, the Schlur run would say he's a better horse when they get him mad fit and mad fresh at home. And I mean, I'm not sure Sandown's his track. I'm not sure he had the ground at Sandown, but they seem to think that he wasn't in the same form. I haven't watched any yard tours and I won't. But if they get in there mad fresh, which I think they will, and he is a very, very fine trainer, in a race where I want to take on Marshborough and I want to take on Marine Nationale, he's where I'm leaning at the moment.
Three contrasting opinions then. Sam with Marine Nationale, I'm with Marshborough, Ross with the potential Load of Sud. Not a bar of that personally, but I do very much respect your opinion, as you know. But I'd be shocked if he beat Marshborough, unless Marshborough obviously came to grief and fell.
But that is the element, isn't it? It is Champion Chase.
Sure, but he was good last time.
He was good last time.
He was.
I just think it's to use your word, topography of the track.
Oh, like it.
That is just not going to suit Marshborough.
Talking of topography of the tracks, lovely link for you here. You're thinking, here we go. What's it like to ride around the 2 mile chase track around Cheltenham? Is it quick?
It's good fun on dodging bullets.
Yeah, it was nice, good buzz. But then at the same time, the element is that mistakes are very hard to come back from. So you need to be in a nice position, nice rhythm. It's so much more about pace, that track, than anything. And like, if you are able to travel and jump at pace comfortably, it just makes you so dangerous later on.
Wednesday, other races then. I'm going to leave mine for the daily pod. I didn't really like any at this stage, so I'll put that out there now. Do you have any rides? Yeah, you're in a Wales. You're a on and leave.
Yeah, so he's in the Grand End and he's also in the 2.5 novice handicap later in the week. His prep has been fantastic. Champion bumper then looks tricky. Possibly you'd end up fancying whatever Patrick Mullins ends up going for. But it's one of those kind of leading up to it now. It's hard to kind of work out where he's going to be and what's going to happen. I imagine he'll go. He missed his race the other day, so it might turn up, but still a plenty deep race.
Yeah, it's a pretty difficult Wednesday undercard, I thought.
What's the handicap hurdles on the Wednesday?
The coral, I don't know any of them are called nowadays. So you've got what was the coral, obviously champion bumper, the Grand Annual, which is, I presume, still the Grand Annual.
The Grand Annual is a race I've got a terrible record in. I haven't looked at those yet. I got a couple for the Thursday and a Friday.
Yeah, okay, cool. Before we move on to Thursday, SBK has a new feature running through Cheltenham. You can check this out on the SBK app. It is called the SB 10K Leaderboard. It's the ultimate test of your Cheltenham punting. You can check yourself on where you rank in the P&L leaderboard throughout the week. The chances are you could, if you do well, win that £5,000 top prize out of a 10K pot. It really is something you should check out on SBK. Go and do that. Maybe there'll be something in the description about the SB 10K leaderboard. But during the Cheltenham Festival, make sure you are looking at that and you could potentially win a really nice prize. T's and C's do apply, 18+, and please gamble responsibly. Let's move on to Thursday then, day 3 of the festival. We're going to cover 4 races in this segment, so hopefully we can find some winners. We're going to start with the Mayor's Novice. William Mullins dominated the first few editions, but he hasn't actually won any of the last 5, so been a bit of a changing of the guard. However, and this is a big however for you, he has got a favourite this year, Ross, in Bambino Fever, who I know you like. It's not necessarily a one-horse race because there is Old School Outlaw in there. There are a couple of other Irish trained horses and a couple of English ones as well that are worth a second look, but you like the Jolly.
Yeah, I do. I just think she's going to have a bit too much class for them. I thought she was really good in the bumper last year, albeit on slower ground, as all 3 of her bumper wins were before she went to Punchestown, and arguably her most visually impressive performance was at Punchestown on a bit of nicer ground. Beaten by Old School Outlaw, who will reoppose here on her debut, but it came at a time when Willies were all needing, or certainly as novices were needing their first run. She's clearly stepped forward massively from that next time out. She's going to have the best Irish jockey, or one of the 2 best Irish jockeys on board for the best Irish trainer if you're a Nicky Henderson fan, or an Irish Twiston-Davies fan.
Yeah, come on.
And
he's very set like that.
And I just think there's so few negatives about her. She's got loads of hates. She's going to stay really well. They know what it takes to win, and they know when they have a good filly, and they clearly think she is a good filly. So
what price is she? Is it about 2 to 1?
2 to 1, which after the bumper last year, I think you'd have fancied to be odds on for this race. And I think because Old School Outlaw beat her and has then backed that up with some good performances herself, it's just got people second guessing maybe a little bit, or maybe not second guessing. Maybe I'm second guessing, but I like her. I think there's so little to not put against her.
Opinions on this race?
We are in preview season, aren't we? And when you hear Patrick Mullins suggesting it's obviously one of their best chances, it just leads you to think, she must be a hell of a filly, huh? Yeah. I like the noise.
Yeah. Who would you trust more, Patrick or Paul, when it comes to some optimistic elements?
So Patrick at this stage I don't think he gets it wrong very often, does he? Imagine having to choose between one of those bumper horses. Yeah, it's always his judgment is obviously very good.
It is, and she is a short, thin off price favourite. However, not much really separates Bambino Fever and Old School Outlaw on that race, you said. So there will be people that have the flip opinion and prefer Gordon Elliott's Charge. I'm going to give a shout to a horse at a price. Carrickmorna Spruce in here. She's 16 to 1. She's a grade 3 bumper winner. She's been consistent in her hurdling start. She was placed in grade 1 company. Now, her figures actually make her very comparable to Old School Outlaw. She's only a couple of pounds below on RPRs, which actually then puts her comparable to Bambino Fever. Yet she's 16 to 1. Bambino Fever's 2 to 1. So big kind of price disparity there. I'll be with the each way shot. You're with Bambino Fever?
Yeah.
Bambino Fever. You are sharing the same notes. Do you want to read some of mine?
Yeah.
Don't, yeah.
This
A bit of pepper.
back.
Yeah, we did tuck into the peppers during a little clip there. Right, we go for the Mares Novice to the Mares. Quite a nice little segue there. Again, unsure on who's going to line up. We've already talked a lot about Lossiemouth and Brighter Days Ahead. I would like to see both in the champion. Thoughts on those two?
What's the problem with the race, isn't it? Is like, do you know what way they're going to go? I can see Lossiemouth going this way. I think they want to win at Cheltenham, which is very fair. You've got a filly that suits the track well, trip suits well, and if she runs, she wins.
Do you think they will avoid each other? Lossiemouth and Brighter Days Ahead.
I don't. There's a chance. Brighter Days Ahead runs in Champion Hurdle. There's not a chance she runs anywhere else but that because they've got Woodoo.
Yeah, of course.
And
Different owners though.
different owners. But I think there's some yards where if you are part of that yard, you do as you're told. Willie Mullins is one. I think Gordon Elliott's is one as well. And I think he has built up enough trust with certainly Giggins found that they just let him have free reign. And trainers are, to be any sports person, let's class trainers as sports people, although some of them might not have the figure to be an athlete, that you've got to have an ego. You've got to, because you put yourself out there, you're going to be saying, I will train that horse better than X, Y, and Z. Gordon Elliott's got an ego, and he says Bright Days Ahead has been wrong both times to run at Cheltenham, and she is good enough to win a champion hurdle. That's where she'll run. And I think even if Lossiemouth goes to champion hurdle, she'll go there as well, because I think they would fancy you more to beat her over 2 miles on an old course than they would over this trip. And we should point out on the new course, Lossiemouth going for a 4th festival win. All 3 have come on the new course. Triumph this race twice.
Yeah.
And I know that the champion is the champion hurdle. I get the clamour to win a champion hurdle. But if Lossiemouth does go in champion hurdle and win it, there will always be people that go, yeah, but it was that champion hurdle. So it's not like she's really going to silence the critics if Rich Ritchie and Willie Mullins are bothered about that, which I don't think they are. Whereas she could become a 3 times Mares Hurdle winner. Yeah, that's something. I think so. And I just think she is much better on this track. Okay. And I think Leopard's Found, she just never looked that she could quite go the gallop. So why would she in the champion hurdle?
Yeah. Look, if she runs here, if Lossiemouth runs here, I would also be with her. But if Lossiemouth goes to the champion, I'll be with her there. I think she's just the best of this current crop that we're going to see in these 2 mile hurdles. If Nigel and Willie wanted to run a horse somewhere and the owners didn't, who would get their vote? Would the owners get their way, or would...
I think they would, yeah. The owners would possibly, but when you're a master of Willie's, if he wants to go somewhere, I'd say there's not been too many people arguing, because you know that the result would be probably as you want it to be.
Yeah, understandable. So who would you be with?
I love Woodoo, like ever since obviously finished well behind at Ascot. Thought she's a lovely way of going. She's a cracking mare, but if Lossiemouth turns up, she wins.
Yeah, I think are we all in agreement here that if Lossiemouth runs here, she wins, and if not, who would beat the rest? Yeah, okay. That is the Mares Hurdle then, over and done with.
I know Woodoo got close at entry, or close enough. I think there's 2 elements to factor in there. Lossiemouth is just, this is her track. And also, Paul was riding with one eye on Nico on Constitution Hill, and I think Woodoo, just Danny Gilligan, I think, was on board, ran her own race, and I think Lossiemouth had to actually go and win her race twice. So I think she's comfortably a better man.
Let's move swiftly on then to the Stayers Hurdle. This race is a little bit more enticing, I would say, than the Mares Hurdle. Can Chihupu become the 7th horse to win this race more than once? But he would only become the 3rd, as I try to read my notes, to recapture the pride after losing it the year before, having already won it. I hope that makes a lot of sense. But
What, he's 7-4 favourite and he didn't win it last year?
he didn't win it last year.
Oh, so the horse that beat him last year is not running this year?
No, he is.
He is running.
Bob Buttigieg is in the field.
Riddle me how that makes sense.
It doesn't.
Chihupu is a grand horse. I've taken a while to warm to him, at his best on soft ground. And I know Jack Kennedy said that he would like his chance again last year. But Bob Ollinger travelled in, popped the last, and up the hill he went. There were no proper gear. I don't think so.
I think how the race has run has a big significance on the result.
TC loves this.
Oh, I've literally got written down here, what have I got? These stayers hurdles can be run at Arkle then, Sam. Why?
Just as if there isn't a genuine front runner, why does anyone else want to try and set it up for someone else?
But there has been a front
I still got messed on my phone with Flooring Forte, where it's literally, they're doing it again.
Well, he's in there, isn't he? No, but then same time, they didn't make the running last time. Hunted around the back.
But those two additions, they still haunt me, where Florian Porter just went off the front. They held up like Classical Dream and what.
The problem is it happens. Well, God, he's a Cheltenham Festival winner, so you can never take anything away from him. But I never forget Cole Harden's year. You let what was a slightly bigger price, I'm sure we're all humans, you look at him at 20 to 1, whatever he was, and you go, oh, he'll just lead us along. You give a good horse a soft lead on the front, they can get away from you, and it's very hard to get them back.
So tell me here, Ross knows you.
Be the front runner?
No.
True, but
Ross knows that the stayers hurdle has been a race that has really annoyed me in the past. Why, if there is going to be a dawdle and a horse can get a soft lead, why would one jockey not go up and sit on the shoulder in the box seat?
because you know full well that they're only going to then use you as a target. You're going to drag them, so your Cabriel de Mattons, your Bob Ollingers, you're going to drag them to where they want to be. So if you're said jockey to move, they'll then use you as the one to go off.
Sure, but I'm not necessarily saying you're going to press the pace or anything. You're just going to be in a better spot.
It's tricky. Yeah, no, you're right. You're right. But something that make these races fascinating is the tactical element to it all. Like Cabriel de Mattons is going to have a lot of pace, and if they do go steady, like he will be lethal down from kind of as you come round the last bend to straighten up. But then, as is Bob Ollinger, that will go massively against Tiufu. So, how does it work out? Like, with someone who's like you'd hope would go and be forward, but how is it going to work out? That's the thing that these talk about all these races. There's so many different aspects, and this what makes all of this Cheltenham so fascinating is the strength and depth of the races. You're not looking at a threes-on shot going, well, that will just hack round and it'll win. And that's what makes it so fascinating. Is like not only are you having to look at what is very individual classy horses, you're having to actually look up at the makeup of the race, because quite frankly it's not going to suit some of them.
No, and working out the pace is the prime way of finding winners, right? Regardless of whether it's a 5 furlong sprint or a 4 mile 1 furlong Scottish Nat or whatever. But in the Stayers Hurdle, it is impossible. I think it's impossible to work out what's going to happen. I don't know why. It just is.
I think if Ballyburn runs, and I wouldn't give him much chance if he runs in it of winning it, but I think they're going to just let him roll off the front, and he could be that sort of horse where everyone says, well, he is a classy horse, we can't give him too much rope, and that might drag them into the race. You like Honesty Policy, don't you?
Yeah. Go on.
Why is he going to improve past Impose Trois? Who
yeah.
has drifted out to a huge price because he got stuck in the mud at Cheltenham by Marchantou, who's given £6 to, beaten 7 lengths. Nico, you could tell going to the last, Nico knew that he wasn't going to pick up like he'd done on the previous twice. And that's where stable jockeys that are attached to the yard as opposed to attached to the owner is so valuable, because he knew straight away that the worst he could do is to really get stuck into him and get beaten the neck. The ground was gluey, it was horrible. And he's drifted out to it was like 14, 16 to 1.
Yeah.
He won the long walk, he won the long distance. Again, we're making the assumption that it might dry out at some point in March by the Thursday. I think he's a massive price.
He went through both those races beautifully as well. He
And jumps beautifully. Nico's a very efficient rider. I think there's lots to like. Tiufu is, I wouldn't do an awful lot of laying. I certainly wouldn't do an awful lot of laying at Cheltenham Festival, but he's too short. He's getting towards that sort of way, because you can't rule out Bob Ollinger. 3-time festival winner, okay. The Turner's Chase was a bit of a asterisk win, but he clearly likes this track, and old horses can run well in this race.
Yeah. My take on the Stayers Hurdle is that the division needs a new young horse in it. And it's nothing against Tiufu or Bob Ollinger per se, but I don't think they are amazing Stayers hurdlers. They're not Ingles Driver or Big Bucks or anything like that. And Honesty Policy is the new young horse. Now, Impose Trois could go close. I've got no problem with that. And the price is very fair. But I do think Honesty Policy lacked a bit of experience in that race at Ascot. And also, he was tap for toe on the turn and then finished off actually better than Impose Trois in the final furlong. And I do think if they get racing a little bit earlier at Cheltenham, there'll be a form reversal. Plus, I just feel like he's more talented than any other horse, and he's yet to prove it. And the price has a lot of potential factored in. That's why he's 9-2. On actual form, he'd probably be 8-10-1. But I'm willing to go in on him. I think he's the new young star in the scene, and I don't much like anything else.
I mean, I love Cab. I think Cabaret de Matin is the most talented horse in the field.
Who's 2-13 over the trip.
I can't see how he's going to settle enough to stay this trip. And I get what Sam says, that if the slower they go and the more it turns into a dash, the better it's going to suit him.
You've got to
The
settle
back end,
energy,
he's got to settle in at the start, hasn't he?
Yeah.
It's a good race.
It is a good race. It's a really interesting race. Yeah.
Interesting. That's probably the word to describe it, isn't it? Which makes it hard to side with one.
If you were given one to ride, who would you pick?
Well, I was going to say Potter's Charms entered.
No, so he won't go. He'll go straight to Aintree. But for me, looking at how the race looks like it's going to work out, for me, I think you're going to need a little bit of pace. And if Cabaret de Matin goes to sleep early, you could see him being the younger, sharper individual as you turn in, you know.
So
Bob Bollinger's getting on a little bit. Tiapu's going to be one-paced. And you're looking straight away, like, what's going to be the obvious answer? If you're going to guess, obviously, then obviously Henderson Horse and such. But it's, for me, I think he could end up being the one, especially if it's going to be a drier lead up to the festival.
What would his prep be like, though? Because they said they weren't going to run here looking at Aintree. Is there a danger that it's going to be a little bit rushed? Or is the fact that he's been running for the season, he's going to be at a good level of fitness?
You know, the Skeletons, they're fantastic. When we're going to go to Haydock and then we're going to go to Fontwell, they have target trainers, but then if they will readjust and remake their plan, and you could see them just going and making a plan now that suits them, and they'll do as much or as little work as they need between now and then to make sure he's ready.
Cabaret de Matin 13-2 for you. Ross, was it Bob Bollinger, or did you prefer it?
The price is Impose Etoile.
Yeah. Impose Etoile then for Ross at 14 or 16-1.
Yeah.
And Honesty Policy for me at 9-2. From the stayers to the Ryanair next. Factor File tops the market at the moment. Let's talk briefly about him. Is he running here or the Gold Cup?
How do you know?
If you were to guess, obviously it will only be their decision. Where
He's won a Ryanair, I'd go for the Gold Cup. Why not? It's one Gold Cup. It's the most amazing race to watch. It's the hardest race to win, but there's one.
I agree. And also JP has got John Bon in here.
Name me the last 10 Ryanair winners. Whereas you'd probably, if I said name me the last 10 Gold Cup winners, you'd be like, oh yeah, here we go. Whereas like, you're not falling out of bed for a Ryanair, are you? I'd fall out of bed to win one. But
I was going to say, of course, anyone would.
To fall out of bed to backward.
just thinking when you were trying to sum up like how someone's going to do, like if you're privileged enough to have a horse of that ability, for me, I'd love to see him go.
Are you saying this because you might have a ride in the Ryanair and you don't want Factor File to be against you?
It should be nice, but no, we'll see. At the end of the day, it's like you've got to go where you believe your horse has the best chance of winning. So technically, it is the Ryanair, but
It's the Gold Cup.
I know they're in different yards, but I think there's an element that how JP and the team are being informed about, I know the way you're thinking, because he has run like I've got a horse that wouldn't win a Kim Muir this season, and yet he won the Gold Cup in impressive fashion. I mean, if the Gold Cup wasn't a graded race, you say that they've minded his mark for the Gold Cup, but clearly that's not the case. I think there's possibly a chance that if I know the way you're thinking is starting to burn the house down at home, and Gavin Cromwell is saying he's back, that surely increases the chance of Factor File going to the Ryanair, because
I caveat that.
God,
What? It's the Gold Cup. Would they not want two runners in that?
possibly, but does Mark Walsh get off a Gold Cup winner to ride Factor File? And if not, does Paul Townend get off Galloping de Champs to ride Factor File? So who rides Factor? I mean, Sam's probably got their phone number. Who rides Factor File in the Gold Cup? I think all those. I mean, it's not a big decision. Yeah. Of course, yeah.
There'll be a lot of ideas out there.
But there's a lot of pieces to move around, and if Factor File runs in this, he wins this. And the issue we've got as punters is if Factor File runs in the Gold Cup, I think Gaelic Warrior runs here, and vice versa, and they would both have outstanding chances.
So to answer my question, is Factor File going to run here or the Gold Cup?
Just to be contrary, he's going to run here.
Okay, so do you like him for this race?
It was my first anti-post bet.
Nice.
I backed him again after the King George because that was just all wrong, and he went to a silly price. And but he will probably run the Gold Cup. I will concede that. I'm just being a contrary so-and-so.
I think you did a tweet about Gaelic Warrior, or you did. It was in Miller's Movers about Gaelic Warrior after his last performance in the Irish Gold Cup. Am I right?
Yeah.
And like he ran well in defeat.
Yeah, he did. And I don't like to be a jockey basher because I've ridden. I know that
There is.
I know how, like any sport, people miss penalties, people miss conversions, people miss tackles. I saw some horrific strides in my time, and there's probably video evidence out there somewhere. But I just think that Patrick Mullins struggles, and that's a loose word. His weakest aspect is holding strong pulling horses, which is strange because he's a big guy. He should be able to hold them. He had 2 at Leopardstown. Le Davin Enfant ran in novice hurdle, ran away with him. Gaelic Warrior, I thought, ran 2-3, was out wide, which I think was a deliberate move. We're not saying he was naive being out there, but it meant he had fresh air to run into. And I thought he tanked for the first 2 miles and did really well to get as close as he did. I would love him in the Gold Cup, but Patrick would probably ride him because I can't see Paul getting off Galloping de Champs.
Wait, so you think Gaelic Warrior goes to the Gold Cup?
I don't know. I'm just saying if he runs in the Gold Cup, I think he's got all the attributes. I just worry whether Patrick will be able to get him settled enough and get into a rhythm.
This race is literally a debate of is Factor File.
We're not. We won't have a walkover, but
They won't dominate.
It won't be far off, will it? Because you can go through the list. John Bond, I don't think will run. I think they'll go to Aintree, fresh, because he's had a fair heavy season. So it's Factor File or Gaelic Warrior. Django Bay's not going to run in this. Yalete Tont's not going to run in this. Romeo Coolio, he's never going to run in this. So you're then down to Hartwood, maybe Banbridge, but he could go to the Gold Cup. Handstands, but he's a very well handicapped horse in the Ultimus, I'm led to believe, is potentially as good as Jukebox Man.
Yeah.
And then you come down to Matata, who I think shouldn't be dismissed. And my selection at this point in time would be JPR1 at 25-1. I wasn't sure he'd stay. You were certain he'd stay, and he stayed really nicely around Scottish Champion Chase.
Yeah.
Likes a bit of nice ground. Arrived there fairly fresh. Got some good bits of course form to his name. You're back in now 3 places. I think you struggle to find 6 runners on the day.
I think it's an interesting point, isn't it? Because if you're talking about JPR1 in the Ryanair, it sounds like a terrible edition of the Ryanair. And it's not anything against JPR1. I do think he's a good horse, but he's not a Ryanair winner in terms of profile. But he's a good each-way price in a race that could completely cut up.
So open.
It's so open. I think Gaelic Warrior runs here, and I think Factor File goes to the Gold Cup. So I'm going to be with Gaelic Warrior. Matata?
Yeah, in great nick. He's been left very fresh for it. He could have gone up to Premier Chase at Kelso weekend. Don't know when this will come out, previous or to come, however it comes out. And it's been his target training really well, as everyone will say leading up this. But for him, when he's fresh and well, he's a dangerous horse. He wasn't quite fresh enough, obviously, last time at Windsor. And I think you can count for a good deal better with him. And with knowing of him, he'll give his very best what happens.
Does he have to lead?
Doesn't have to lead now.
Doesn't have to lead.
He'd hunt away quite. He's a lot more susceptible now to be ridden in different ways, which is lovely.
Yeah, I suppose that's quite nice versatility to have with him. Will you ride him or?
No, I imagine JJ, unless they had something else, but yeah.
And you'd be sending emails saying, I've been looking at James de Burley's, I think you'd have a right chance.
Yeah, definitely.
So if you had to have a selection, Sam, who's the
At
horse?
this point, I'd sit on the fence. Wait till you see what's going to turn up and what's not. Because to have a strong opinion at this point is you're guessing, and it's guess. We like to be sure.
Yeah, I think there were people at home saying we want selections, but in this race specifically, that is a very good.
You just don't know what's going to happen at this point. Now we are in a place where it's just we'd like some answers, but we can't really give them if we don't know what's going to turn up.
Completely agree. Any other races of note or horses of note on Thursday?
County Hurdle 2, Charisma has been really, really well campaigned. Won nicely last time, won snugly, went up just a pound. And I couldn't believe, she only won by a short margin, but there was clearly loads under the hood. I couldn't believe the handicapper only put her up a pound. I think she's interested. If she gets in off 128, it wouldn't be the worry at this point. And then I saw him entered. I was under the impression that he'd actually been given a break or even been retired because he bled very badly on his Chase debut with John Joe O'Neill and AJ O'Neill's Tell Her the Name. I do a little bit of few bits with Keelan Woods has got hunters and show jumpers, and I often ring him and see what he's got. I messaged him and said, Tell Her the Name's entered in the county now with Dan. Was that an entry that's sort of just been missed and he's not? And he said no, he's working along quite nicely. Dan likes him. He's really interesting. 6 lengths behind Lump Sum in the Fighting Fifth, where Sergino was in a different county. Lump Sum's 147. Tell Her the Name runs off 133. If the ground came up nice, I think he's a classy horse. The issue is it's had a catalogue of problems. I am very comfortable to say that Dan Scout from John Joe O'Neill Jr. is a John Joe O'Neill is a massive yard upgrade. If they can get him right, and that's a big if, I think he's a really smart horse and a handicap off that sort of mark.
2 in the county then, yeah?
Yeah.
2 in the county then for Ross. All other selections from Ross and myself on the daily podcast. I've got no undercard selections at this time. Any rides?
Novice handicap, Jordan's Cross, won well at Cheltenham last time. Still 2.5, but obviously on this track will suit. A lot of positives. Goes there in really good form and left fresh for the race. Just a nice horse going forward, whatever happens.
Gal Road in the Thames final?
He qualified the weekend. Don't know what they'll want to do jockey-wise, but once again, for him, it's impossible. He's in a rock and a hard place. He won a Cleve hurdle last year. He's now obviously multiple placed. It's hard. He's got nothing to play with handicap-wise, sadly.
If I was to ask you to rank the 4 Cheltenham days in order of how much you would be excited leading up to them, what would you say?
The way they've changed the festival is very interesting. The different days, you have the Kimura on a Thursday, you have the 3-5 long distance chase on the Tuesday. It's funny how they've rescheduled everything to have different races, different days. For me, the original day of the Tuesday, greatest buzz, kick off Cheltenham Festival, starting with Supreme, Pace, Champion Hurdles, Arkles, and then from Gold Cup Day, Friday. That's what a day.
Yeah. Favourite Cheltenham day?
Yeah, I think I'd be with Sam. I mean, when they had the Supreme Arkle Champion and the Mares, that was, for me, the best. The Gold Cup is the race. It's the race that I first remember watching at Cheltenham as a kid, and it's the race that I've always thought was the best horse. And so for me, it's about the Friday.
Yeah. Talking about Friday, here we are. We're on to Friday right now. See how I linked that, by the way. Yeah, I'm a pro. Yes, Friday. We're going to start with the Triumph Hurdle. Well done for making it to this point of the podcast. It's been a long one, but hopefully we've given you some insight along the way. Triumph Hurdle, very difficult race to assess, even on the day, actually, not with 2 and 3 weeks out, whatever. 7-2 favourite currently Proactive for Willie and JP. 9-2 Selma de Veri for Willie and Rich Ritchie. 7-1 Manila Study. I think he's way the best of the English horses, by the way, or UK trained horses. 8-1 Maestro Conti, bigger the rest. Thoughts?
I agreed about Manila Study, although I would say that Winston Jr. I think improved a lot next time out.
Yeah.
He won too easily next time out because I backed him for the Fred Winter after he finished behind Manila Study. I'm very worried that they're going to go here, particularly now Narciso has come out. Just instinctively, I want to take Proactive on because he wasn't their number one when Narciso is in. I remember years ago reading that different code, but if you think you've got 2 Derby prospects, you've got none.
Yeah.
I just worry that it's the colours, it's the profile. He's open to loads of improvement and he clearly is improving, but he's a short price, so I want to look elsewhere. Selma de Veri, I think, was really interesting at the DRF because I think she was ridden very cold on her first start. She had a lovely mark of, I think, 128, translated from a French mark. I think she was ridden and she was going to be their Fred Winter horse. And I think she jumped and galloped herself into contention because when you watch from the turn in, Paul Tanner still sat quietly on her and you could almost see a uh-oh moment of I've got to go and try and get this leader. And she quickened up really smartly. I think if Narciso was in that here, I think this track would have brought about more improvement for him and he probably still would have been my selection. But now he's not. I think she's really dangerous. And fillies have a good record in the Triumph getting the weight, don't they?
Selma de Veri for you then. It's currently 9-2 for Willie and Rich Ritchie. I like Manila Study, as already mentioned. Macho Man ran in that race with Proactive. He's also entered here. Proactive 7-2, Macho Man 12-1. There wasn't much between them. So I'm going to have a bit on Macho Man as well. They're my 2. Any thoughts on the Triumph?
It's wide open, isn't it? You can make a vast amount of selections. And we saw last year, nobody's discounted. It's
We won't dwell on last year too much.
I'll go on a strop, start crying.
The horse you rode for Yoga.
So he's looking more Fred Winterbound, but beautiful animal going forward, that's for sure.
Will he be a chaser in?
Yeah, I'll say so.
Yeah.
Beautiful stamp.
Yeah. Did he give you a nice feel? Or, yeah.
Green though, came off the bridle and just hung almost to go out on another circuit. So with time, we could see him really progressing.
What were the expectations with him on that run?
Let's hope to win.
Yeah, he was strong in the market.
But it's a lovely way of going. Obviously, then Tally didn't work out, but for future-wise, he'd be one I'd want to be on side with.
Interesting. Watch out for Manila Yoga moving forward then. We'll go from the Triumph to the Albert Bartlett, and the 4-year-olds up to the 6-7-year-olds staying hurdlers here. 3-1 Dr. Steinberg. Now, you gave him a shout earlier in the pod. Do you not think he runs in this race? He's a commanding favourite.
He's got every chance running it because really made quite a big thing that he's out of a Cyborgo mare and they stay. But time upon time, and I'm trying to think of the horse now, it ran in the grey and whitey colours, black something, that was certain to be Patrick's National Hunt Chase horse. That was amateurs.
Yeah.
And it ended up running the 2.5 mile race and winning it. Black Birchie's, maybe.
Was, correct.
And really at the last minute decided he'd watched him go through the races. He was quite keen. He jumped really quick. She was coming back in trip. I just wonder when they sit down and watch it, and it might well depend on how much they think of Matthew Park and where he goes. I think if he runs, he's got to wear a hood. If he doesn't have a hood on, I'd be taking him out.
Do you like hoods?
Well, I just think that certain trainers utilise them for good reason. We were talking about it on the pod previously. I think in class 5 and 6 handicaps, when you see blinkers reach for and cheapies, I think it can be a case of, my God, what are we going to do with this horse? We've got to try something. I think in his better grader races, I think you can view it as a positive that trainers think they might have just found something to bring about more improvement. So I would be against him in this. I haven't got a big fancy because, again, there's so
Wide open.
I just thought Crick Dick Gin, because of the nature of the race and the pothole and the fact it was running near dark, didn't really get much of many lines written about him last time at Cheltenham. He won a grade 2. I thought he just looked tough and hardy. That's the sort of horse you want. I'd be interested in him now, but I'd be much clearer on the day.
Yeah, just a muddied picture then for us at the moment. You mentioned a hood question. I feel like that was a pointed question. Do you not like hoods, or do you like hoods?
Personally, no. I'm a big fan of the red hoods to get to the start, keep everything quiet and nice and relaxed. But actually, for me, to put it as simple as an athlete, if you were to go for a jog and you could hear someone coming to essentially pass you out, you'd run a little bit faster, wouldn't you? So I like the idea of the hood is to help you relax and do things the right way around. Do you lose that little element of competitiveness? If all the sound is blocked out and you're needing absolute maximum effort over the last 50 yards, I'd rather hear someone coming than not.
If you were to, obviously it wouldn't necessarily be your decision, or it would be on some occasions, but if you were to choose a headgear, your favourite piece of headgear to put on a horse to spark improvement, would it be blinkers? Obviously it would be different for every horse.
Yeah, every horse is an individual. For me, Potter Charm, for example, this season, the red hood has been the biggest. Just to get to start, just to deal with the preliminaries a little bit easier, and you get to start. I bet you there'll be a hell of a lot of red hoods loose at Cheltenham this year, because it's more and more people are going to it. Because if you can get that tiny percentage of difference just through something so small as that, wouldn't surprise me if there's a hell of a lot more use.
Nice segue. I've actually done a piece on hoods that goes out tomorrow and the use of them. And I think Cheltenham, and particularly since it's a new, it's been developed, it's a real cold in the sound, isn't it? And that's why watching the prelims so important, because some horses will just run their race before they set foot on the track, and you can, be white with sweat, lost all
Can't let
concentration.
anything go wrong, can you? If you're dripping with sweat on the way to start, you're in trouble.
Cryptic Gin from Ross, and he
I was trying to remember an English horse off the top of my head, and the problem was I had to go on my phone to look down through all the Irish ones. So yeah, a little bit lost.
Yeah, it's a tricky race. I don't like anything, so I'll be leaving this one and give an opinion on the daily podcast. We have finally made it to the last race of note that we're going to preview here. The Gold Cup on Friday, the big race. Everyone's looking forward to this. We do it every single year. The buzz will be fantastic if you're on course. If you're not, you're sat at home and you're waiting for the clock to tick around to Gold Cup time. I found this the best puzzle, I have to say. Not necessarily saying I've got the winner, but I do think this is a race that You can have numerous different opinions, but there are a lot of red herrings.
Yeah.
Django Bay is the favourite at 9-2. I think Factor File will be favourite if, and I want to put in brackets when he is supplemented, because I'm pretty sure he will be. You've got the Jukebox Man, Haiti Couleur, Galopin des Champs. I know the way you're thinking. Great race. I'm going to ask you about alternate horses here to get through a few of them. Django Bay.
I mean, he's classy, isn't he? He's got loads of pace, clearly stays well. I like how he goes through his race. I absolutely couldn't put anyone off him. I just don't think there's a huge amount of juice in his price now. I think he might be bigger on the day, because I think you're right. If Factor File runs, when he runs, he's favourite. I think Galopin des Champs would be second favourite. I think you can't underestimate sort of the emotional money that will come for him. So he might drift to a nicer price. But and again, Nico has plenty of knockers. Sam sees him ride every day. I maybe watch racing from a slightly different perspective, in that I think strength in the finish is overrated. And what's underrated is the amount of lengths you can save, the energy you can conserve by getting into a rhythm out in the country. And to me, Nico is as good as any, really.
From one King George horse to another, the Jukebox Man, obviously you can talk about Django Bay as well if you wish, but what do you make about the Jukebox Man?
Loved it. Obviously, we had to remember this from way he went through the race at King George, not an overly quickly run race, but jumped fantastic, got headed and was able to get back at Kempton. That takes some doing. Don't see any reason. Obviously, the extra trip will be a problem. It's a lovely way of racing, good jumper. You could see him slotting into a nice, handy position well. My one reservation is if you've got the likes of Galopin des Champs who have been to war in that race, turn up and they can turn it into a real test, whether that will be his undoing.
He did finish legless when he got beaten in the Albert Bartlett, didn't he? But I think got a soft lead and maybe got a little bit lonely, and he didn't get a great stride to the last, and it's very hard to pick up off the hill, isn't it? But that would be the one concern.
You're doing a lot more jumping in the Gold Cup as well. You're getting more oxygen in, more energy, you're saving. It's a lot more rhythmic,
Match bet between the two, Django Bay, the Jukebox Man, who would you have out of those two to finish higher up the order?
Django Bay.
Well, see, I'd go the other way.
Okay.
I mean, Ben Jones is improving. I just think in a Gold Cup, my issue as a punter with Ben Jones is that, as I've heard someone say, he puts his Christmas tree up in October. He can just sometimes go and then lose his race in the last half furlong. He's going to have to be really mature in a Gold Cup to come round the turn, probably on a horse that's travelling well, and just wait a bit. I had no issue that Nico would be able to do that at all.
It's a very fair point. A Gold Cup, I've ridden in only a handful, and it was like nothing else. The pace you jumped off it was strong, and you'd be able to obviously judge pace of jockeys every day of the week. But you think, at some point there has to be some let up. In a Gold Cup, there is no let up at any stage. None. It's like you are the best of the best, and they can race at a different level for a different amount of time. And that's the one thing that really stood out for me. And I wasn't riding horses quite good enough, but at the same time, it was the fact there at no stage, at some point in a good, well-run race, there's a little bit of let up, you're a little bit closer, a little bit, however it's all going to work out. A Gold Cup, there is no let up. It is start to finish. You need to be a hardy bit of kit now.
Sure. There are two of the English challenges then. The Welsh challenger, Haiti Couleur. Thought, I like it. Again, not half signing because it's been on the Tuesday podcast. I put him up anti-coast. I just like his profile. Sam talks about tough and hardy. He is tough and hardy. So is he your pick in the race? Is that what you're saying?
Not at the current price, because I've got a nice position about him. But I think he'll hit the frame. I think he'll jump well. He'll gallop well. Sean Bowen's riding out of his skin. There's a lot to like. I would concede that has he got the class of some of the others would be the...
I see him running well. I can't see him winning. That's my view.
Galopin des Champs?
Yeah, huge fan. I could see him, so he hasn't had the season leading up to it that maybe previous, but it's going to be a lot of people on his side on the day. He deals with the preliminaries well. He deals with the hustle and bustle of the race well. He can be forward. He can be back. He makes up what is traditionally a fantastic Gold Cup horse. Like, he stays, he jumps, he's very rideable, he deals with preliminaries. There's so many questions about a handful of the others they've got to go and answer, whereas he's answered everyone before. I could see him coming back and regaining it.
Yeah, I mean, I hope so. I mean, God,
Be a hell of a story.
I mean, I was blubbing at an all-weather race on Southall on Friday, so God knows what I'll be like with
The handicaps, not even Constitution Hill, right?
The issue I've had with him is not that he got beaten on his seasonal return and he got tired. He just hasn't. The image I have of him is this horse that strains the rein and just looks like this caged beast. And I'm not sure we've seen that this season. But you have to respect Windy Mosif. I think we can get him better. And I think he's building forward. And if I know the way you're thinking doesn't turn up in the same form, the pair of them were miles clear last year, weren't they? Now, there are new young pretenders that I think will finish well. But yeah, I mean, I would love to. I would happily not have any financial return on the Gold Cup if he goes and wins it.
It would be the best story of the race for sure. Just to give my opinion, because I forgot to give an opinion there about mine. I prefer the Jukebox Man out of the Jukebox Man and Django Bay. I think he's a stronger stayer. Haiti Couleur, I think will probably be outclassed. And I agree with you on Galopin Les Champs. I would love him to win. Factor file, if he runs here, how close does he go?
Crikey.
I think he will win it.
Really?
If he runs in the race, yeah. But I have
Mason's got that here, bottomless straight.
well, we have had this discussion
You need
for probably 3 years.
Yeah.
I've said all this time that he's a proper 3-mile horse who can stretch up to Gold Cup.
guts it out.
Ross has been absolute opposite. And
You go down, you go when you get to the track on that Friday, see what state the ground is, wander down off the bend from 2 out and look up where that finishing line is.
can you win it before the last?
No. He says, having ridden in 0 Gold Cups.
I feel like he has the ability to kick off that turn and put distance into harder. I know. But he's unproven over. He's not a definite non.
I watched his Brown's advice. So horses definitely get stronger and get more stamina as they get older. Absolutely.
Irish Gold Cup proved that, right?
Irish Gold Cup proved that. But he was a very tired horse in the Browns. He won so easily, but I'm very confident that he was at his max. In that, he just had the race won. And then you watch how he took apart the Irish Gold Cup, took apart the Ryanair. It's with that third quarter, isn't it, where he just gets jumping and travelling and he gets them all out of their comfort zone. Is Mark Walsh going to be, I say, brave enough to do that in a Gold Cup and trust him to last up the hill? And if he doesn't, does he nullify his big weapon, which is that tactical speed in the mid part of the race? I don't think he'll stay.
I think the 6-1 currently is very fair because if he does run here, he will go off favourite. I'm pretty certain of that. So I've taken a bit of 6-1 in the hope that he does run and obviously stays. But he's a major player in this race regardless. The other horse we'll talk about in this little feature before we give our selections is I Know the Way You're Thinking. You briefly mentioned him. He has stunk the place out this year. I think that's fair to say. Like, he was bad last time prior to the fall and it was a tired fall.
Yeah.
But the reports are good. And if he's back, if he produces that display from 12 months ago, 14-1 would look massive.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it would. I feel like I'm not convincing you.
Yeah, no, you're
Yeah,
not,
any
because
thoughts?
No, I haven't.
And I mean, he was so tired. And unfortunately, when they're tired and they fall, I'm sure Sam will confirm this, they hit the floor harder because they're not going into the floor. They are thumping on the floor. It would be one hell of a training, and he is a brilliant trainer, isn't he? But it'd be a hell of a training performance. There's just one before you get on to the next bit I want to mention. Envoy Allen arrives at the festival for his, how many appearances at the Cheltenham Festival?
Too many.
8th appearance.
That's got to be a record, hasn't it?
It must be. And he's running graded races every time. He's hit the frame every time, apart from when he fell in the, what was the Turners, whatever they call it, back then. He took apart the Champion Chase at Down Royal. He goes really well fresh. He flew home behind Factor File, having got outpaced in the Ryanair last year. He is an old boy. He's going to be trained for this. Might well be his last run.
I think he's a journeyman. Yeah, is Rachel Blackmore going to come back as well?
Some of these peppers.
I haven't even noticed you're not your green sack.
Gone through half the olive.
He's a massive prize. He's a classy horse. It just wouldn't surprise. Every good Gold Cup a place is filled by a big price horse that you look back and go, he did have a touch of class to him. This horse has got it.
Can I get straight to the point? Are you going to bet him?
I've backed him a little bit
Okay.
each way.
So there's a little bit of movement on the
I would never put something up and not
nice. Okay.
go in myself. And he's not going to win it, but I think he's got a bit of class.
Main selection to win the Gold Cup.
Sam's really got me thinking now about Galloping Ashant, and I kind of put that to bed that he was yesterday's horse. I think Django Bay.
Django Bay?
Yeah, but I will back him on the day when he's third favourite.
Okay. All right. I'm a factor file and I know the way you're thinking. Bigger on factor file, smaller on I know the way you're thinking.
Galloping de Champs.
Confident?
Gets it back. Hopefully, yeah.
It'll be a massive story. Yeah. He's been a great horse as well, full connections and the sport in general. Okay then, Friday's undercard. Briefly, before we provide our naps, next best and best each way at the festival, I really like one on Friday. I'm just going to mention the name now and then I'll go into it more when we talk about our best bets, but I like East India Express and the Martin Pike. He is my undercard horse. What have you got?
Wendrock in the Martin Pike.
Yeah.
Fast finishing 5th in the Fred Winter last year, having got hampered down the hill. Flew home. That was off a mark of 136. He's had a strange campaign since. Interestingly, though, he's been ridden by conditional riders pretty much every start. Carl Miller, no relation, and Josh Williamson. Down to a mark of 129 in Ireland. Got £5 Irish tax, which is a bit tough. But he looks like a horse. He ran really well at Christmas, given a lot to do, stayed on quite nicely. Bombed out on desperate ground last time. Gordon Elliott obviously loves this race because Martin Pike, his mentor. I think he's got a touch of class about him, and he's bet on his mark.
Wendrock's finished second then in the Martin Pike. Sam, any...
Don't think any rides. Jubilee Alpha stood out for me in the county. Very interesting. Just good, strong jumper, traveller, dropping back down to the 2. Seen her hard on the bridle over 2.5 a couple of times, not quite get home. I think a stiff 2 suit her well.
If you don't have rides on Friday, do you not have rides on the whole set?
I don't. This moment doesn't look like any. No. So
Right elsewhere.
what is it? It is Fakenham Doncaster. So yeah, we would know the Saturday before.
And would you have the TV on in the weighing room with
Everywhere, yeah.
A phone in your pocket, go around.
Very few races get missed at the other meetings.
Lots to digest there. We've covered loads of races on this podcast. Hopefully you've enjoyed them. I need to mention the final SBK offer now, which is the sign-up offer. Sign up to SBK, bet your first £5 and you'll get £30 in free bets. T's and C's do apply. 18 plus, please gamble responsibly. There were 2 other offers earlier in the pod. If you missed them, I can't really remember them, but there's an SB10K leaderboard, which will be going on throughout the festival. You can check your P&L on that. There's a top prize of £5,000. Make sure you check out the P&L leaderboard. And also, there's 20% winnings boost on the first race every single day of the festival and on the final race of every day at the festival. Bet with SBK at Cheltenham this year. Right. Napa next best in each way. Who wants to go first?
I'll go on.
That's only been 2 hours.
Nat Bambino Fever.
Okay.
I just think she's the class horse in a race that the yard know how to win.
Yep.
Next best Old Park Star. I just love how he goes about his work. And each way at the moment, it was a toss-up between Pose Etoile and JPR1. I've gone with JPR1 because I think he'll run, and I think you'll have three places now about a race that only paid 2 places on the day.
Napa Next Best, relatively short prices. Would you advise singles or doubles? Because people hear Napa Next Best, they immediately put them in a double every single time. We're more singles players, right?
Yeah, because I think they're bookmakers' bets, and I think this year, I mean, we did well at Cheltenham last year with plenty of winners. You're not going to need to find a lot of winners this year to get a return because there are going to be some big price winners. So moderate your stakes, and I would place singles. And I know that doubles are great for the social media accounts and they feel really good when you land, but you would be sick if Old Park Star dots up in the Supreme and then Bambino Fever doesn't look quite the mare you hope she did in the Mare's Novice.
Completely agree. From what it's worth, singles all the way for me. If you wanted to do a combination throughout the week, completely understandable. Virtually everyone does that anyway, but you want short-term profit. Long-term profit is the game of punting, but Cheltenham, you want to end up on a high. The best way of doing that, unless you're very lucky with a combo bet, is to play singles. Nap next best each way, any of the above?
Looking forward to watching Vanillier cross country. Reasons to why Stumptown's going to keep the weights quite nice for Vanillier. Obviously a good winner last time out. And then I've stuck with Jubilee Alpha in the county. Just a reason why just to watch the way she goes through her races over obviously the 2.5, dropping back down to the 2. Obviously on the new course as well at Cheltenham, could just see her going well.
And your best ride and/or the Twiston-Davies best chance?
Obviously very competitive week all in all. That a lot of ours will be big prices, but a horse that has been left very fresh for the meeting is Guard the Moon, and obviously the first day, the 3-6 Chase.
Yeah, make sure you have a look at all of Sam and Ross's picks. I love East India Express in the Martin Pike. This is my nap, 25 to 1. It's an each way nap. You're not really supposed to have those, but I'm going to here. He was very unlucky, / eye catcher last time at Windsor. I think he's well handicapped. Freddie Gordon will ride for Nicky Henderson. Big price in the final race of the festival. And it means I can wait until the last day of the last race before feeling sad that my nap has been beaten. But he's a big price. I bet him already. And I did bet him for the Coral Cup, but they're going for the Martin Pipe instead. My next best is Lulamba in the Arkle. Kopek Void may run here. If he does, then it'll be difficult. But Lulamba to me is an even money shot on what has happened this year between both of those horses. And it should be a 2-runner race. And my each way play is Brave Fortune, who goes in the National Hunt Chase for Joseph O'Brien. Again, big price, 14, 16 to 1s available. Loads of untapped potential at long distances. So there are my 3. I'm looking forward to Cheltenham. You guys?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I really am. I think it could be a great week.
Thank you very much to both of you for being a part of this podcast. It's been a joy. We're here in the Hollow Bottom as well. It's been great fun. Lovely peppers and olives.
How would you know?
Well, I've had one pepper. Half of it is on my notes. But yeah, it's been great fun. Hopefully you guys have enjoyed the podcast. Plenty of offers. They'll be in the description down below. We'll see you again next week or sometime in the future. Have a great Cheltenham.